repairs on Big Ben are meant to take approximately 3 years. That's a long time considering they're working around the clock. Hello YouTube, back at it now for another AlphaStar cast. Now we're going back to one of the earlier versions of AlphaStar. This is like its inception phase. You can tell by the rank of player they are currently playing against. But I've just finished watching some of Home Story Cup's grand finals. Cyril vs. Rainer was absolutely so sick to watch. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the second half of it. I had to jump in and start casting and get into work. So I didn't feel right being ripped away from such an epic ZvZ. I decided to grab one at random. It's just unfortunate that my random chose a diamond, so we'll see what this ends up looking like. Because again, we're going way back in time to one of the original versions of AlphaStar. So, the unknown human to the upper left side of the map will be heralded as the red diamond player. And of course, to the bottom right, we've seen this robot come so far through its highs and its mediums. Now we get to check out its lows. It's AlphaStar. I think I've got the wrong health bars on though. Give me just one moment to quickly fix that. Where's that gameplay? Health bars should be on damaged. There we go. Now, if I'm really clever, I'll have edited that out on YouTube, but if you're hearing me talk about this now, then you know I didn't, so nice. Anyways, getting back into it, ZvZ, regardless of what skill level you're at, high ranking on the ladder or low ranking on the ladder, this is still a really volatile matchup. I think when you look at a lot of the mirror matchups in Starcraft 2, Terran vs. Terran tends to be a pretty good back and forth when players are well matched. Zerg, however, it kind of gets overwhelming. It's a little scary too, because it's not always easy to tell whether it's going to be Zerglings or Roaches or what exactly you're going to have to look out for in this match, but that's where scouting is going to be amazing, because you basically, for the first 7 or so minutes of any ZvZ, you're going to have Overlords freely out on the map, kind of like what our Diamond player is doing right now, setting them up above the ramps. This one's probably queued up to be down here. And it's not to scout the main base and look what's going on. It's more to see what leaves that ramp and lets the top player know, oh, I need to put down 3 evolution chambers like right now, wall that off type thing. Of course, this is also, since we're in the way back machine, back on King's Cove, and that's not such an easy task to pull off. But at any rate, our Diamond player is getting some good eyeballs on where the Zerglings are. But I'm mostly curious about AlphaStar, because we've watched a lot of AlphaStar's highs, and its Zerg has definitely been one of its stronger races, I believe. Terran's had some good games, but always seems to be pretty flip-floppity. But with Zerg, the macro just pushes through in almost every matchup we've seen. And AlphaStar is with an Evo chamber kind of at the front. There's no creep spreading yet, so it's not like this will be a wall off. But I suppose it will help create one in a pinch if necessary. We also have some just odd movement out of the lanes. This definitely feels like an earlier version of AlphaStar. It's just a little bit clunky. And for those who don't quite know what they did with this, basically there was, I think, 3 big waves of AlphaStar, right? There was the initial version that went on the ladder. It played to like a 62 to 65% win rate and got up to between Diamond and Masters. Then they took it down, and I don't know if they just made it play a million games against itself, or they took the data they got off the ladder. To be honest, I don't really know how that stuff works. But a new version of AlphaStar came out after that, and all the races had very different strategies with that second wave of AlphaStars. And then, I think between then and there was a very brief break, but then they had that final version, the one that ended up being Grandmaster and kind of completing their journey on the Starcraft ladder. So AlphaStar's been through a lot, but this really is going to be interesting and fascinating, because this is not one that's had all that experience taken into account. And in fact, the third base from AlphaStar already getting knocked down. Not a great start here for our AI. But there's more Lings on the way, so it won't be completely defenseless. Retaking this base isn't completely out of the question. We do have to keep in mind that while I don't have an income graph to show you, AlphaStar has had more drones for a longer period of time. So a little bit of extra money kind of allows you to make a mistake like this. Of course, for our Diamond player, their third base is only just now finishing up, so not like a massive lead or anything like that. Baneling's coming down, expecting more of this fight, but they're actually making the transition to Roaches. So our Diamond player, kudos to them, is actually playing pretty well and advancing along the game just fine. AlphaStar is doing +1 melee, and I guess this is really appropriate because if you were watching the first best of 5 in that home story cup, then you know that this was one of the strategies we see people go for. But regardless, +1 melee is kind of for me. It's iffy. Against other lanes, it's really fantastic, obviously, and it's so good at chewing down buildings. But if it comes down to fighting against roaches, it only succeeds in very low numbers and very initially in the game. With some banelings to wash off these zerglings too, I don't really know how good they're going to be. I mean, you could, yeah, have all the zerglings in the world with +1, but if one baneling takes them all out, then it doesn't really matter. So AlphaStar's control is certainly something we're going to have to judge pretty heavily. We know, again, it's macro through all its variations, Diamond, Protoss, Masters, whatever. It's been pretty good. So I'm expecting AlphaStar to continue. Oh, AlphaStar. I've just said so many nice things about you. There you go. I'm expecting AlphaStar to have some pretty good solid income. I don't imagine it's going to be missing a beat on these drones. In fact, there's like another 11 coming out right now. This could be a problem because our diamond player's not really making drones. They're AlphaStar. No. I guess can I get an F to pay respect in the comment section, guys? That's gonna sting. That leaves a mark. Well, for a little bit, then the bloodstain's gonna disappear. But running face first into banelings like that, obviously not ideal. Now realizing how much roaches are in play, I think she scouted some of that. She's gonna have no problem trying to react, but the real problem is because AlphaStar drones so heavily, they have all this money through drones, and that's nice, and the income is almost double that. No, it is very close to double that of our human player. But the issue is it takes so much time for that to come into effect. So the only way this really works out for AlphaStar, in my opinion, is if our diamond player doesn't push out in the next minute or so. If that's the case, despite that horrendous loss of an engagement, AlphaStar is going to have so much money to build so many roaches, this won't be a problem. And in fact, AlphaStar will command a very nice lead coming off of this. And I know I gave it about a minute, but even that might be too late, because as our diamond player pushes out, AlphaStar has about 14 roaches on the way. And while that won't be enough initially to stop the attack, Defender's advantage in ZvZ is huge. It is probably arguably one of the most important factors for this matchup. So diamond player has to break AlphaStar before AlphaStar has enough units to match it, is basically what it comes down to. That is, of course, a task easier said than done. Let's get into the mineral lines pretty quickly. The drones are kind of pulled half stacking. They should really just be pulled out of the base so as not to worry about it. Banelings hit some of the roaches too. Not big damage, but it's still splash damage. But now AlphaStar's got 21 roaches. And while Diamond Player has 22, a lot of them are going to be coming across the field. Some drones get pulled into the fight. Not quite sure how I feel about this. Just trying to body block a little bit. So unfortunately, our Diamond Player's not taking the bait on this. But remember, our Diamond Player can afford, has to kill like 20-something workers before this attack is really worth it. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that that's going to happen. A lot of these drones is going to put them out there for bait, and we're not snatched up. So 47 drones to 34. Defender's advantage proving itself here. Maybe you've heard the phrase before, but you've never witnessed it. Witness now. AlphaStar held that because of the production lines at home. And even with the income being disrupted pretty mildly, maintains a pretty solid worker lead, keeps the money flowing. AlphaStar also has +1 range weapon upgrades. This kind of nullifies the +1 armor of Diamond Player in this case, but our Red Zerg in full retreat, and rightfully so. Because they invested so heavily into roaches, they're now very aware that they need to start making some drones of their own. So we do see some drone waves coming out, but I'm quite worried. AlphaStar's actually going for a Spire too, and if they can just go toe-to-toe with the roaches, but there's even like 3 to 8 mutas in the sky, it's going to favor AlphaStar very heavily. Now, this is a situation here where I think our Diamond Player did have a good position, but due to perhaps lack of experience or being too worried, or maybe they're just focused on their macro, because let's be honest, that's what really separates the pros from the Joes. It's being able to do the macro seamlessly while being able to attack and micro on the front lines. That's what makes AlphaStar so exceptional in a lot of the games for AlphaStar we cast. So, you know, having paused here for that time in which they did, not moving across the map, whether it was because they were focused on droning or whether it was because they just didn't have the experience to know that that was the time to go, AlphaStar is actually so far ahead in my opinion. I know it doesn't look crazy different on the supply tab right now. In fact, it looks fairly close, but the way Zerg and drones work, this fourth base, like AlphaStar is seriously going to just catapult so far forward. And we do have our Diamond player shaking things up. I do like the Hydralisk Den coming out. This of course is not the patch like Home Story Cup. In fact, this is probably a patch ago. The only reason I bring this up is we're not going to see exciting lurker play, most likely. But with Hydra's coming into play, AlphaStar's going to have a couple of banelings. This will work out. This and +2 especially will be very good for the fight. But it is really corely going to come down to these roaches, regardless. I mean, AlphaStar's investing in weapon upgrades for the air. It's got enough banked up. She could probably make about 12 or 13 mutas without too much issue. But I'm not sure if the trigger is held waiting on the scout, sees all the roaches. The continued investment's enough for sure. And our diamond player is going to, unfortunately, have not enough anti-air. Like, Hydra's on the way. That's great. 16 mutas, though, with baneling support, with this amount of roaches. Normally, I don't talk about the mutas hitting the front line. Normally, the mutas are, like, picking off the reinforcement waves coming down the ramp, or the mutas are in the back line, picking off drones. But however AlphaStar wants to use these mutas, they're even viable for a direct engagement just due to the numbers alone. Now, we do have +2 Carapace finished up for our red player in this instance. That's going to help mitigate a little bit of the glaive worm damage as it bounces from target to target with that Mutalisk ricochet, but realistically, it's not going to stop this. I just look at, oh my god, the army count right now is going to be unreal in a second. 22 more lings, sure, but it's another 12 or so banelings coming out as well. So the roach count is about close to even, sure, but 6 hydras, 10 hydras even, does not beat this many banelings and mutalisks. Not unless AlphaStar makes a massive mistake. Now flying straight to the mineral lines. Some spore crawlers going down out of desperation, but not nearly fast enough. This clumping is really good out of AlphaStar as well. Would pick off some of those hydras as they were coming out 2 at a time. Last thing that our AI wants to do is fight them head on, but as said, totally capable of doing so, primarily because there's so much to fight with. This isn't just mutas. A lot of the times we see mutas, sometimes it's desperate, but not in this case, not in this instance. The banelings go on the front line, and you know what? They don't hit the hydras, but they do hit the roaches. The mutas take on the hydras in the back line. AlphaStar's roaches take on the roaches of our human on the front lines, and there's 2 separate individual fights. AlphaStar wins both of them. That collapse is going to be massive. And an immediate attack across the field, of course, is initiated. There's more lings coming because they're going to be fast enough to run across the map to reinforce. And we do snipe off a Hydralisk or 2. There's 12 roaches coming out, but I mean, the supply, guys, 161 to 92. The upgrades don't really matter in this case. It really is a numbers game. And AlphaStar, oh, seriously, I wish we had income graphs so I could highlight just how good and spiky the money has been. AlphaStar continues to expand. I mean, AlphaStar playing at this diamond level of play is so much better than a lot of the Masters games we've actually seen out of it, funny enough. But this ZvZ has just gone absolutely perfectly for AlphaStar. Not flawlessly, but perfectly in terms of getting this victory, because I just cannot see a world where our diamond player brings this back. At the same time, though, AlphaStar seems to be suffering from a very human problem, where AlphaStar doesn't know how to go for the kill. Banelings crashed into the army here, really softens up the roaches, kills some of the Hydralisks. And I don't think there's enough. No, with only 5 in play total, the mutas really could commit to this. AlphaStar is feeling a little scared, I guess. It's 5 hydras. Just stack up and shoot them. No, okay. Have a good life. And still more banelings kicking up at home. You know, the funny thing is, though, as much as I would like to tease and make fun of AlphaStar for being unable to finish this game, this is actually a very common problem we see. This happens with Grandmasters. This happens with top players. They're too afraid to throw away their win. And let's be honest, guys, how many times have you watched your favorite Starcraft player infuriate you by throwing away a clearly won game? It happens all the time. So I'm not sure how, where, what with the AlphaStar training against itself. Maybe it also has that same problem. Regardless, 10 more Mutalisks are coming out. The supply count is massively in favor of AlphaStar, almost maxed out now at 195 out of 200. There's just no way this doesn't win the game. Just posturing, looking for the kill. AlphaStar has lost about 9 Mutalisks over the course of this. 20 26 currently in play. Oh my god, I like the idea of the extra spore crawlers, but once again, a little bit fruitless. They come down too late, too little. And as the Hydras respawn, we do see on the minimap some other units moving in from AlphaStar, but it's just the mutas rallied across the map. So really, our AI is pretty obsessed with these bat boys. 23 of them to the 7 Hydralisks on the other side of the map. All right, I think we finally have the gears thrown in. We're gonna have that push out. Hopefully, maybe. This is just really probably the most speechless I've been in a game of casting AlphaStar, just because there's not really a lot to go over. I mean, AlphaStar's moving to Greater Spire, I guess. That's cool. Hive tech's done, but all of this is so unnecessary. Because the second AlphaStar chooses to fight, this is probably over. I mean, I guess on one side of this, at least for our Diamond player, the supplies have started to match up a little bit. They've got their own mutas. So wait, hold the phone. When did they get the money to build 22 mutas? Unfortunately, though, the rules of ZvZ are pretty much ricochets happen to attribute a lot of damage to these muta fights. One mutalisk is usually all it takes to win a muta war. If you have 18 to 19, the player with 19 wins every time. But in this weird exception, due to the fact that AlphaStar has a lot of its ground units soaking some of that Gladeworm damage, this ends up being not a huge disadvantage. And in fact, AlphaStar's still going to power through. Snowballing now, too much with the mutas. There's the tap out. GG. Another AlphaStar game done. Thank you for watching my AlphaStar videos, and thank you for watching the AlphaStar casts. I hope you guys have been checking out the full playlist. We've covered so many of these AI games, but as always, thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a comment down below for me to read later. I do read all those comments, and make sure to like the video. I'll see you guys on the next AlphaStar cast.